Hello, card friends. I'm Alexi.
And I'm Chaz.
And this is
Rainbow Reverse.
Today we're talking about our overall thoughts about the overdress format so far after having a round of playing locals this weekend, getting to feel out the decks and the new mechanics a little bit, just talking about our thoughts and our first impressions. Which I really like it. I love V Premium. I'm warming up to G Premium. I'm warming up to it.
It's just called Premium for those watching at home.
Right, yes. And I really like overdress so far. Overall, I have some issues here and there, which I'm sure everybody does, but I'm having fun learning these new mechanics and these new strategies and stuff.
Yes, I will say overall, I like the fresh take. Feels good to just kind of get some new stuff and just get out there and try it. I like that all the decks do kind of have different feels to them. Even the ones within the same nations don't really play the same way, which is cool. So all the decks have their own unique flavor. Obviously, some are better than others, but overall, you at least feel like you're actually playing a different deck. It isn't just my front row gets to restand and I put plus power and crits on everything, and we, like a lot of decks kind of towards the end of V were just a lot of the same thing. It's like, oh, I spam markers.
Yeah.
Oh, my Vanguard or my rear guards restand.
It does feel like more variety.
As far as the decks we've been playing, between the two of us, have built most of the decks and have been playing a little bit of them here and there. We have pretty much every deck except Hexa Orb and Eugene built and have played around with them some more than others. I mostly have been playing Bastion, Prison, and Orphist.
I've been almost primarily using Zorga, but I've built Barrow Magnus too, which I'm looking forward to playing with a little more.
And I guess I was also playing Verena a bit.
Yeah.
I was playing the Verena Nirvana deck a bit too. So that's been really fun, getting our hands on all these new decks and trying to learn the ins and outs of them. We had our first locals this past weekend, which was relatively well attended for our scene. Our scene's not super big, and especially towards the end of all the V era weekends, there were really like less than 10 people were starting to show up for the last couple of months for most weekends. So it's been pretty small, but we had 19 people at our locals this last weekend, which for us, I would say is pretty high.
That's really good.
Our locals, even when V was a little more poppin', was still never huge. It was usually around like the high teens.
Yeah.
So getting back up to like a 19 is like, there's like a lot of people here. There were even new faces, like people I'd never seen before there, which was exciting too. And that was cool. We overall did pretty okay. I came in 3rd out of 19.
I came in 5th. Which, near the end of the series, I was doing really well. Starting back over it's fine, but...
Alexi's used to, coming in 1st and 2nd every weekend. So, going down to 5th one weekend is a little rough.
It's fine. I'll work my way back up.
But, 1st and 2nd out of, 8 is maybe not. I mean, 1st is 1st, but 2nd out of 8 and 5th out of 19 are, probably a little closer in range. I also think I came in 3rd mostly because of bracketing points. I don't feel like I did as well. I mean, I only lost one match, but I'm still how did I manage to come in 3rd? Because Alexi only lost one match too, but the way the points work out are weird. It's we each lost one match, but I was in 3rd and Alexi was in 5th. But it's I beat the person who came in 2nd. The point system, I don't really understand. But either way, we still finished in the top 5 out of the 19 players for the first weekend. So that was pretty solid. I played Bastion. Alexi played Zorga. So that was cool. That was fun.
Something that I was concerned about with overdress, and I know a couple people were, was that there would be less clan identity, which aesthetics are important to me, and I think they're important to a lot of other people, but each of these ride chains, each of these builds are very distinct, I think. You know, Zorga has a very grand blue vibe to it. Magnolia has that, you know, great nature-ish Neonectar kind of vibe to it. I think there is still going to be a good bit of, you know, variety as far as aesthetics go, and I'm really pleased with how that's turning out.
And I was always a big fan of a lot of the Stargate Nation decks, Link Joker, Dimension Police, and Nova Grappler. So of course I'm playing both Brant Gate decks a lot. And it feels nice that I can still have my Cyberoid type characters, but I also get to have my giant robots in there too. I love me some giant robots. So that's great. The ride deck has been nice. It's an interesting mechanic because you do have to decide what to discard, which can be tricky, figuring out what's worth the discard. And it also depends on the deck too, because some decks, you know, you're like, oh, these types of cards are easier to get rid of, whereas in other decks, certain types of cards you feel like you need to hang on to more. And it also depends, I think, on what triggers you run. If I have a draw trigger in my hand, that's an easy discard for me, personally, because it only has the 5k shield, and most of your units outside of grade 3s have 5k shield, so I'd rather keep the 5k shield in my hand. That at least has an ability if I put it on board.
Right.
So there's that. But yeah, figuring out what to discard is definitely something that's part of the learning curve. However, your guaranteed rides to get your effects and make your deck function is good, and I do like that mechanic a lot.
It does really up the consistency of every deck.
There is one thing that has come up a lot for many people. We didn't have too strong of an opinion on it.
At first.
I had some feelings, but it was all theoretical, purely speculative. I don't really have a lot of those simulator Vanguard apps running, so I don't play a lot of the new cards before they're released most of the time. It's all like theory for me. But the overtriggers, we have decided we do not like overtriggers after locals and our own rounds of just testing and playing casually.
Yeah, I've kind of determined that overtriggers, as they are right now, are a mistake.
There are parts about overtriggers that I like, and then there's one specific thing about the overtrigger that I absolutely despise. I think having a one-off card in your deck that has a special mechanic, that is a little bit of the luck sack element to it, which Vanguard has a strong part of it. That's fine, that's fair. I like that part about the game. That you can pull off some cool ability. I like the abilities on the overtriggers. I think they're interesting. I think they add a extra dimension to the game. However, the big thing for me is that 100 million power. Because if someone hits it on you offensively, you're probably screwed. Like, yeah, it's just, oh, perfect guard it. But you're not always going to have a perfect guard. Even if you're being conservative in your guarding, you still might not have a perfect guard. Or you might even go, all right, I'm going to guard no pass on this, except for the overtrigger, which then your opponent hits it. And then you're just like, well, there's nothing I can do about that. And then you just die.
There were just so many games at locals that were 100% determined by drive checking an overtrigger or damage checking an overtrigger. There was a game where my 6th damage check was an overtrigger, and I ended up winning that match. And I just don't think there should be one card, at least with the 100 million power. The effects I'm also completely okay with, but there shouldn't be one card that if you drive check it, you win.
Yeah, the big thing for me with the power is it just halts you or kills you, one way or the other. And sure, if you check it early in the game when it doesn't matter that much, it's not that big of a deal. But the problem is I feel like my opponents keep checking it at like the worst possible times for me. I don't want to say I definitely lost my first round because of an overtrigger. However, I certainly was put in a position where I could not win because of an overtrigger. It was my first grade 3 turn, and my opponent went to grade 3 first. And I was playing Bastion. I set my board up with, like, the Dark Strain so I could get my grade 3s boosting. So I was looking at these 30k columns, you know, hoping to drive check some grade 3s, do some restanding, you know, go for that, and at least push pretty hard, and just first attack of the turn, overtrigger. And, you know, it was just like, oh, okay. So it's like my opponent didn't take any damage because of it. And then next turn, you know, I just didn't have as much left to go with. I survived. It was Barrow Magnus, so it was his 4th turn, so he just sucked all my cards into my soul. I had to guard to not die, and then my next turn I just had nothing to play. So I just died. And it's like, yeah, it wasn't the turn that the overtrigger was hit that I lost. You know, it wasn't an immediate loss. However, it hitting put me in the position where I could not win. I'm not saying, oh, I would have definitely won had it not been hit. I'm not saying that, because I don't know. It was a little too early to tell. But I could not win once it was hit. I was just put at such a huge disadvantage at that point. And it was really shitty. It was my first round of the day, too, and I lost. And it really sucked the life out of me. It really just brought me down. And I was like, man, this feels terrible. Had that, a little part of me was like, I just want to just quit today and we'll start again next week. That's how I started feeling. You know, I turned it back around out of the rest of the day. You know, like I said, I came in 3rd, but like I was down in the dumps there for a minute. It doesn't feel good. And I was playing against, you know, just some casual matches the other night, and it was just like, oh, all right, I'm about to win, 6 damage, overtrigger. Not heal trigger. Heal trigger, I still had enough power on board that I could have attacked again. Overtrigger, nope. And then I lost the next turn, because, you know, I extended for a kill and overtrigger.
And the overtriggers have won me games much more than they've lost me games, and I still just hate it.
I'm the other way around. I've never checked an overtrigger. I've yet to check an overtrigger in a way that helps me win a game. I only check them at like really inopportune times, and then my opponents always check them though when it helps them, and it's just felt terrible.
I'm not exaggerating when I say maybe 25% of my games have been determined by overtriggers. And it could just be a luck thing, could just be, you know, good luck for me or bad luck for me, whatever.
You are a sack, as we all know.
Okay, but you're also a sack.
Not nearly as bad.
Okay, but my sackiness doesn't, you know, exclude your sackiness.
Get back to the point.
Anyway. I don't even know what my point was.
Your
now
point
I'm like,
was that
you're
you've been
sack.
winning games. Your point is you've been winning games with the overtrigger.
Completely due to the overtrigger, and it's not satisfying to me in any way. It's fun for a second, and then I'm like, I didn't really earn that win. You know, like, sure, there are a couple games where I'm like, I played this game well, I earned this, but when I drive check that overtrigger and it gives me the win, I'm like,
don't get me wrong. Part of the excitement of Vanguard is being able to get the checks that help you turn a game around. That's part of what is exciting to me. It's like, all right, maybe if I just get the right thing right now, I can pull through. And it works sometimes, and it feels good in that sense. But when it's just like overwhelming, like, oh, I completely, pure luck was able to win a game. It's like, that's a little different than like needing like that extra push of luck when you've played well and played a hard fight, you know, and then you get that little extra push you need to win. That's different than, oh, you know, I just purely based on luck just won this match. You know, I can imagine. I haven't felt it yet because, you know, it didn't happen to me, but I can imagine how it would feel a little more disappointing on the end of like, oh man, I didn't win that the way I wanted to.
Just take the power down to like 10,000. I like the effects. I love drive checking that Stoikeo over trigger and getting all those effects. It's a great feeling. But just take the power down to like 10,000.
Yeah, if they just had regular trigger power, I don't think they would be that bad. Because if you damage check it and it kind of gives you that free heal, and like some 10,000 power. You know, it's annoying, but you can still fight someone after that. However, you know, when they get the 100 million on the Vanguard, you can't hit them anymore. Or, you know, again, on your turn offensively, do you really need 100 million power if, say, you're playing Keter and all your, you know, cards get drive checks now? Or you're playing Stoicheia and you get a free every trigger? Like, do you need the 100 million at that point? Or Dragon Empire, restand your Vanguard. It's like, you don't need the 100 million power. The rest of the card does good stuff. The 100 million power is it's, I get it. It's cool and exciting. You know, it's got the rainbow colors on it. It says 100 million. It's supposed to be you're like 10 years old playing it with your buds and you go, I got the over trigger. That's how it's supposed to feel. Except we're in our late 20s and a lot of people we play this game with are around that age, maybe even older, and then it's just like, oh, over trigger. I just spent $200 on this deck and I lose every match because of this dumb luck, you know? It's like...
It feels like a win condition. It feels like you drew the 5th piece of Exodia. It's just like, you can't do anything against it unless you have a perfect card.
And I think just for the mentality of the game, it's not good. It's like, you sit there being like, oh man, when's my opponent gonna hit that over trigger and screw me over? You have like a fear in you now. It's not all right, I'm gonna play my best and like, you know, go for this great strategy and just, you know, hope I play well or whatever. It's like, oh man, like I'm gonna play my best, but maybe my opponent will just hit that over trigger and that'll be it. Didn't matter how good I played, you know? That's the thing that we don't like about them. You know, you don't want to sit down for a game and then be like, here we go, here it goes, it's gonna happen to me. You know, you wanna sit down and be like, all right, I've got a chance. I want to have fun.
I don't want to feel like I'm looking over my shoulder the whole time.
Yeah, and like I said, just like losing because of one putting you in that position, just it feels terrible. Really, like I said, it sucked the life out of me. Like I just did not feel good. I was like, great. You know, I wanted to leave. I wanted to just walk out. You know, it's that kind of feeling. And like maybe I'm a little dramatic, but like it sucks. It sucks. And I'm sure if it's happened to you, you know what I'm talking about. You know.
So many games this weekend were determined by overtriggers.
Every once in a while, you'd hear someone scream in the room.
Yeah.
Or like you would hear like a fist hit the table, and you would just know. You would know what it was. Like.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, no, it's not great.
But overall, I like overdress.
But outside of that, yes, I'm having fun. I like the new decks. I'm looking forward to these new reveals, you know, with the new cards for the next set that they're putting out already. Just being like, oh, cool, can't wait to upgrade these decks and make them better. And all that stuff I love. You know, we watch the anime and we talk about it a lot on here, and while we have some qualms with it, we do overall enjoy the anime too. So, all in all, Overdress has been off to a pretty solid start. You know, I'd give it a thumbs up. I would definitely recommend, you know, getting friends into it if you think they could. It's definitely the best time to get your friends into it because, you know, while supply has been a little hard to get right now, once everything kind of evens out, you know, the star decks are out there, the boosters are out there. You know, hopefully the prices on the singles are starting to stabilize and go down a little more now that the product is circulating a little more and you can have that barrier to entry be a little lowered. But, you know, get your friends into it. I love Vanguard. We love Vanguard. That's why we have a silly little YouTube channel where we talk about it. And I want to spread the love, and I want people to play the game and have a good time. I would also like overtriggers to be nerfed a little bit. I don't think they need to be completely removed from the game, personally. Like I said, we just think it's the power. Just nerf the power. You know, the effects are cool. They're fun. I like the effects. I don't like the power. I don't like the game-winning power on them, you know?
Going off of that, I also like that we only started playing V less than a year ago.
Yeah, getting close to a year.
And it felt like we spent a lot of time just catching up to everybody who had been playing for like years.
Yeah, who've been playing since like the game started.
Yeah, and this feels like everyone's starting off at the same level, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, you know, we're finally not catching up anymore. We're kind of all on the same level right now, which is nice. So again, it's another reason you could get new people into it if you think that you could, because they won't be playing catch up right now, which is great.
Yeah.
If you have any thoughts on the new overdress format, please feel free to leave a comment below. Please also like and subscribe to see more of our
quality content. Thank you all for watching. This has been Rainbow Reverse, wishing you all the best.
Bye.
Bye.